and welcome to another Raw Talk session with me, Dolly Indigo Star. This is part 2 with Pane Andov, Astral Travel and Ascension. Well, you've just triggered another experience that I had, and I discussed this with my husband the other day. And during one of my astral travels, I'd met some beings and I'd been astral traveling. I knew that I was working interdimensionally, and somebody came to visit me in my sleep, and I was aware that they were visiting me in my sleep, and they were messing with my heart. And the only experience I can describe it as is that my heart had an orgasm. Can you relate to what I'm saying? Because it was the most overwhelming sensation in my heart. And from then I had lots of other major experiences where I could fly and see the astral world, just like you were explaining. And I could literally look up and see so many different kinds of beings flying about with different auras, some with halos, some had got wings, some hadn't got wings, some were different races. And this is when I was shown some important codes that were like fire sparkles, is the only way that I could describe them, which is with this mentor I was with in the astral world. Can you relate to anything that I'm saying here, or am I totally?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You're not insane at all. The reality of the astral dimension is different. As you explained, we are talking about immaterial living forms. And from time to time, their interaction with the human beings like yourself, and which means the interaction could be for particular reasons, but in your case, obviously, there is certain conduit of information, which means certain information has been passed. And the more you literally explore the astral dimension, the more you start to understand what this existence is all about. Because many times people ask the simple and very important question, why learn astral traveling? What I will gain, what I will learn, But the thing is, with these 5 senses, you don't have the complete understanding of what the universe is. You have to go beyond the 5 senses. And as you start going there, you start to utilize the astral body and other, vehicles, as I was explaining. But regarding to the auric fields, and that's very interesting because that usually doesn't encompass the astral body, but the so-called self-luminescent body, which is one level higher, if you will. So there is a possibility, according to what you have just shared with me, that you have found a way to literally pass the barrier between the dimensions with not default astral body, but with the more energetic self-luminescent body. When you were saying that you had a very, very high experience, in your heart, if you will. So, if you will, I can share my understanding of how the process works. So, as I was explaining about the sleeping paralysis, and that you can achieve out-of-body experience just by amplifying the vibration and the energy. And as soon as it gets powerful enough and reaches the head, you can practically astrally project. But if you wait, despite the fact that you have the clear access, to enter the astral dimension, if you don't enter the astral dimension yet, but instead of you start to focus on something which is most divine in yourself, whatever that is it cosmic love, brotherhood, equality, whatever, everyone resonates with something divine, so to speak, But it has to be honest. If it's not honest, it's not going to work, because the Kundalini will not respond to it, if you will. By Kundalini, I'm just using terminology which probably is familiar with most of the people.
I can relate.
So once when you tune into this vibrational state, emotional state, you will see that practically the energy and the vibration will amplify drastically. you will experience something that you just mentioned, like energetic orgasm, if you will, or a bliss, or what the Asian yogis refer as samadhi. It's a state of bliss where instead of, because in most cases when the sleeping paralysis occurs, it's either very darkish, or foggy state, or sometimes darkish bluish, perception of surrounding and around us. But when you enter this state, it's like a rainbow light, which is literally dancing, expanding everywhere. And when you exit the physical body in such a way, and the etheric body in such a way, if it's, let's say, 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, it should be pitch black inside the room. The entire room is fully illuminated, because the auric field of this vehicle illuminates light on its own. It has self-luminescence. That's why I call this vehicle self-luminescent body, if you will.
A light bodies, yes.
Light body, yes. And with this body, you can see the other entities, receive communication. As I mentioned, you can see the UFO activity and so many other things, which the astral body can see to some degree, but in very limited sense.
Absolutely phenomenal. So our light bodies, which is a little bit like the shape of this star that I've got, I use this as my astral light body. And that's literally how I work and have worked for many years, by extending this light that I've got, that I'm able to create through just opening up and being able to access that. And like you said, now I can just go in and out, but I did have to work through all those astral levels, and it was a lot of work that I did asleep. I say to many people, I work while I'm asleep. Sometimes I feel more tired in the day when I'm awake, because I've been working all night long.
That's it. One of the main factors is how to stay longer on the astral plane, because most of the people, after 15-20 seconds or a minute, they lose their concentration and the astral experience is over. So in order to increase how should I put it, the time that we are spending consciously on the astral dimension, we have to apply training during our physical activities. That's where the ESP training comes very handy, when you're practically learning to see blindfold, detect colors and similar things. And what it does, it trains the consciousness to get used to be out of the body. For example, you visualize that you're about 1 meter away from you and you're perceiving the cart which is behind you, and your physical body is blindfolded, of course, and similar things, and the Chi force, there is 2 chi energy flows. One is called inner chi energy flow, which actually runs inside our physical bodies and around the organs and makes all that healthy, so to speak. And there is outer chi energy flow, as I mentioned, which actually encompass what we refer as the aura or the auric field, and by
like the torus that's continuously
so
flowing.
by combination of this yang, which is the positive polarity, and yin, which is the negative polarity, you can practically project the chi energy, very similar like Shaolin monks are actually training in their temples in China and other places, so to speak, and it's a huge science. But there are things which we need to understand regarding our Asian past, what happened. I mean, we are not alone.
You touched on monks there, because monks actually do this, don't they? Before they pass over, they go up there into the caves, go into a very, very deep meditative state, ready for their last ascension journey. And they literally go in to the astral realms for years. And there's a little crack in the door left open, and they ring a little bell. And it's only when that bell stops do they know that they fully ascended into the astral realms. So
there are many how should I put it, many methods, many schools, even Tibetan lamas, they have different directions of practice, depending of which ancient books they have preserved, and they're following the knowledge and the practice of the ancients, if you will. And many are skilled into astral traveling. They learn how to breathe using certain pranayama techniques, how to vibrate the etheric body, and similar
Prana,
things.
yeah.
Prana, and similar things. And once when they enter the meditative state, they can literally lower the heartbeat, the pulse, even the breathing to almost minimum, so to speak, and in that kind of trance-like state, the physical body doesn't require any water or food, if you will. They can maintain that state for months or years, longer, so to speak, and there are not many nowadays, but they still exist in certain caves in Himalayas, in Nepal, India, and but they're very, very, very rare nowadays. But there used to be a lot of them in the last century, and some of that knowledge, fortunately, is still preserved. It still exists. So it's magnificent. But it all takes us to a very logical question. So if this knowledge that the Asians had were far more superior than what's going on, how come we lost that knowledge over the centuries and thousands of years, if you will? I think
the Egyptians as well, they were very much about the underworld and the afterworld, and about the soul ascending and astral travel, and the Queen of Heavens, Ishtar, Isis herself, traveling in her celestial boats, very much in the dream world. And it kind of correlates within every culture that is on the planet, some kind of astral over soul connection, astral traveling back home, getting that connection back home. So there's something that we're not being told fully about our astral selves.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, both the Egyptian book of Bet and the Tibetan book of That, they both speak about the safe passage to the so-called Great Void,
yes,
or the darkness, and which is a crack inside the astral dimension, which occurred, to the best of my knowledge, around 4,000 years ago. And this crack is very dangerous for the afterlife, if you will. And in Tibetan tradition, through the Bardo troll, they have a system where certain lights or the light beams, more accurately, can be used as a portal to other dimensions and other reincarnations, if you will, by utilizing or becoming one with certain beam of light, you can reincarnate back to the physical world, into the humans, into humanity, come back as a human, and so on and so forth. But if you observe the entire situation of what is happening, is that unfortunately human race is a kind of species with amnesia.
Amnesia. Yes.
It doesn't fully understand, what happened on this planet and this solar system thousands of years ago, how the extraterrestrials were involved, how the Asian civilizations were involved, and how all those Asian wars that Mahabharata and Ramayana are talking about, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So obviously, excuse me, our civilization is not neither the first, neither the most advanced civilization that ever existed on planet Earth. And those civilizations that once existed, they had a profound knowledge of the force, not just astral traveling, but they were able to move objects with their consciousness, what we call today psychokinesis. They're able to communicate telepathically, read through the matrix, materialize stuff, teleport, and many other things, which are quite amazing. But it all makes sense if you start to see all those pyramids and nation structures, how sophisticated they are, in their building structure and geometry and connection with the celestial objects, stars, and so on and so forth.
I kind of get the feeling that some of us are working on such deep astral levels that we're almost like reconnecting those astral strands that have been broken. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it is. It is correct in my understanding, Dolly. And the more people start to visit the astral dimension and utilize the divine nature, the more the information that was lost will start to be passed or conduit back to us, if you will, And as we transfer that knowledge back to our physical reality, there will be more understanding. So another thing which is important to understand, in most of the literature, they're talking about silver cord, something which connects the physical body to the astral body. I have personally never seen that kind of cord, despite the fact that the esoteric literature is full with that information. Also, many forums on Facebook, and online social platforms are talking about it. It doesn't exist.
No, I've never ever seen any kind of cords or anything attached to me in astral travel. I'm quite free to move once I'm moving. I'm aware that I'm different and I'm not who I am, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not the body or skin that I'm in now when I'm astrally traveling. I'm aware of that I'm...
The entire myth of the silver cord occurred during the probably 1800s, 1900s through the esoteric circles, the Freemasons, the occultists, and those kind of circles in those days, and had a difficult time to explain how something can depart the physical body,
yes,
and
if it's not,
and if it's not attached by the rope or a chain, it will just fly away like a balloon. It will never come back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's a hook.
And one comparison was like we have let's say when we are born, we have a cord which are connected with our biological mother, of course. So in the same sense that it was given as a possible solution. There is a silver energetic cord which practically connects the solar plexus of the physical body with the solar plexus of the astral body, and supposedly can extend to infinity. And once when this cord is broken, the soul can't return back to the physical body, and the physical body dies. So that's practically the concept which has been adopted for a very long time, and just people without sufficient experience, they just copy paste over the decades, if you will. In reality, it doesn't work like that. It's connected with DNA immaterial antennas. So what I mean by this, as we see our physical bodies, we are seeing only the surface, but we are far more than just these physical vehicles that we are driving, so to speak, right? Or avatars, if you will. We have consciousness, we have different subtle bodies, as I mentioned. So every of those subtle bodies, they have a different density and different speed of vibration, but also they have the ability to communicate with a consciousness. So in which sense I'm talking about? There is a wireless connection between the physical body, or practically the DNA inside the physical body, and the consciousness once went out. In the same way, for example, when people experience near-death experience, as they're literally flying through a dark tunnel with a light at the end, they can hear the doctors, come back, wake up, So there is a wireless connection which consciousness is connected, to the physical body through those immaterial DNA entrance. In other words, what we perceive as a DNA is just the physical part of it. But there's also other densities and other complexity of the DNA that has immaterial nature, which is connected with those astral body and the other more subtle bodies, if you will. So it has a specific how should I put it, code or a signature, in the same way like every each of us, we have a specific fingerprint, which is just unique to us. In the same way, there is a specific code for the DNA. So in a sense, like with the IP address, the consciousness always knows its way back home. So you never end up waking up in your neighbor's body, so to speak.
Good. So you find the way home with our little Wi-Fi receptors that we've got running through our DNA. That puts me more at ease now when I'm astrally traveling, because I often wonder, will I end up somewhere randomly? Because this is another thing that I wanted to touch on you with astral travel. Now, a few people that I know that are quite sane and not in the public eye have said to me that I visited them during astral, during sleep. And one person was quite adamant that they were kind of awake but asleep and I was there. This is the astral realms again, isn't it? Traveling. Can we meet others in astral travel?
Yes, we can, because what is happening in most of the situations, the people are not aware of their presence in the astral dimension. That happens after the blackout. When you fall asleep, you black out, and then there's like a pause between, let's say, the beginning of certain dream, if there are certain dreams, so to speak, when the astral body literally floats on a certain astral current, but not aware. As I mentioned, it can depart the physical body. It can wander either very close or very far away from the other side of the planet or beyond, so to speak, And it all depends on the orb activity and other things which is going on. The experience can be different. But in case the astral body awakes, it can also meet other astral bodies, or the consciousness inside the astral bodies that are also awake of the astral dimension. It's very rare, but it also sometimes happens that the astral body can materialize and people can perceive it as a ghost with the sight of eyesight, so to speak, with the five senses. But it's very rare, and other astral bodies can communicate. They can have and share the same astral space, and it is fantastic what is happening. And let me just put it this way: if we sleep, let's say, 8 hours of the day out of 24 hours, which one day has, right? 8 hours went to sleep, which is 1/3 of the day that went sleeping. So if you project that your entire life, for example, if you are 60 years of age, that means that 1/3 of your life actually was spent sleeping. So which means out of 60 years, 20 years were spent sleeping.
Wow!
Imagine how big, how long time you had to utilize that constructively, so to speak, instead of just black out and that's about it,
So our dreams are so important, and astral travel is so important, because we literally spend 1/4 of our lives asleep.
That's absolutely right.
It's phenomenal.
The goal is to become aware of the astral dimension and our presence there, and as mentioned, the problem is that the entire astral space is heavily. I have explained all this in my books.
Yes.
One can find on Amazon, or my website, puretranquilitypublishing.com.
Okay, we'll put that links underneath, and we'll put all the links to your astral workshops, because I'm guessing people will want to look further into developing this. And I was just about to say to you, symbols as well, that you mentioned earlier. Symbols is a big way to help assist in telepathic communication, telekinesis, all kinds of things. Symbols will
everything works on fractality and geometry inside the space. So the fractality doesn't apply only for the physical universe, but also applies for the immaterial universe also. So certain symbols like pentagram and like other things can produce or generate energy or transmit energy, and certain things, you know. So I also teach people through Skype sessions, you know, for whoever wants to learn directly, remotely from all around the world. But it is important to understand the dynamic of the astral space itself, how it functions, how it works, and how the orbs are influencing the dreaming hologram. You know, and all this stuff is in my presentation, you know, online. That one.
I was going to say, we've only got our little hour, and it's not even enough to just touch, but today has been absolutely phenomenal, and I want to thank you so much for giving me that little extra insight into understanding my astral world a little bit more. I'd love to bring you back for some more. I think there's room for plenty more.
Absolutely.
Pane, namaste. Thank you so much.
Namaste. Thank you so much also. All the best. Bye-bye.